I remember I would like get mad at customers and I would just like go off on them. The next year was like 6 million, and then it was like 12 million, and then it was like 30 million. The growth was fast. You know, I still own 100% of my company and I've never taken on investors. It's definitely more noticeable how much the world dislikes women.
Today we're joined by Emily Oberg, the founder of Sporty Rich.
Hi, I'm Emily Oberg, founder of Sporty Rich. Welcome to the Burnouts.
Take us back to when you were first working at Complex. So what did that look like, and what were kind of the early beginnings of your career?
Yeah, I mean, so I was working retail in Canada, where I'm from, and I was, really into streetwear from a young age, and I was doing photo shoots with friends just like for fun as like a hobby. So I was working retail and I randomly got a call from Complex. So they offered me the job of, it was like editorial producer. They were launching their video platform at the time. This is when like all media companies were making like the pivot to video. So every online brand was like, it was print, it was online, and then it was digital, it was video, YouTube. That was like the big push. So I took it and it was like the best 4 years ever. And yeah, that's kind of how I guess I got started with the brand that I do now.
And then you moved to Kith. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So after Complex, I mean, I knew Ronnie because we obviously like covered Kith a lot at Complex, and we had a personal relationship, and I kind of mentioned that I wanted to venture into the brand side of things and get out of media. That's never really where I saw myself long term. So we discussed, he was launching his women's brand at the time, and we discussed like what a role would look like and if I could help. And he brought me on as like creative director of the women's brands. So that was a huge opportunity. So I left Complex, was really sad about that, and then was at Kith for about a year.
I mean, these are like incredible roles and jobs you've had. I feel like something we hear from, a lot of people is like there's, how do you choose to leave a good job to go all in and to be a founder yourself? Do you remember, was there a moment when you made that decision?
I just don't think like the corporate world is for me. And, there's like a lot of politics. There's a lot of just dynamics that I felt weren't aligned with where I wanted to go with my life and who I was. And I kind of just always had this instinct of like wanting to build my own path.
And then what did that look like? So you're at Kith, and then Sporty Rich was a blog at that time, right? So walk us through the process of how does it become a turn from a blog into a company?
Yeah, so I was on Tumblr like early on, and then started Sporty Rich as like a mood board account. Now there's so many of them, but it was definitely one of the first. I started that account probably in 2015, like a year after I moved to New York. And it was just a hobby. It's just something I did for fun, and like kind of like the inception of an idea. I had like no intentions of turning it into a brand. I was kind of turned off of brands because covering them on Complex, I saw so many come and go, and I just saw like how hard it was. And I was like, oof, that just seems like a world that I don't want to touch and that I don't really know anything about. So it was really, again, just like a passion project. I like produced all the content, I wrote, I found people all over the world to contribute, just people whose work that I liked and admired. And so, yeah, it was a magazine, and I did 4 issues. And then in that time, I would sporadically do like a sweatshirt or like a t-shirt or a hat. And it was just like very random. And it was still just me at this point. But I had my full-time job too, so I wasn't able to even dedicate that much to it. So yeah, it was kind of just like always on the back burner.
This is something we talk about all the time, is that it's really interesting because social media, you might, have a big following, but there's a difference in how loyal that audience is versus like a podcast. It's so intimate. Like if someone is actually taking, an hour out of their week every week to listen to us, talk to other founders, like that's a very intimate experience versus, social media is like the highlight reel. I'm curious, as you think about now how social media has transformed and become, largely like algorithm based, for someone who's starting a brand today, how would you advise them to start out?
Well, one, I think that there's a lot of people who maybe want to do it for the wrong reason. When I started, I wanted to do it because I loved researching like archival images and clothing and just kind of like looking to the past for things that I was so inspired by, I guess. And yeah, my intention was to never build like this like $1 million business and have, a team and have like a full apparel line. That's never like what I wanted. But I think what made me happiest is, and what still does, is like creating imagery and building this world. So I think one, it's like make sure you actually want to do it because you love it. And two, I would say start with just start on like a small scale. Like we started on a pre-order model because I didn't have money to, fund a huge production run, or do like a crazy marketing push. It was literally just like I would do a photo shoot for like $2,000 for the model, for the photographer. I would like do the hair and makeup. I would do the styling. I would like bring food to set. Like it was all so run and gun. And we did the pre-order and that helped a lot, because we could obviously take everyone's orders and then produce everything and then ship it out. Um, I would say, I still own 100% of my company and I've never taken on investors or any sort of loan or debt. Um, and I think what a lot of people do now that I'm seeing is they start with like this huge amount of money from VCs or whatever it is they raise, and then they go. And I think that's just tricky because there's a lot of pressure to turn a profit really quickly. And I think when you have that pressure, you kind of lose like the sense of authenticity and like why you're doing it. There's not really a sense of you or like heart in that.
And how much money did you start the brand with?
Honestly, it probably was, I mean, to do a Shopify site probably was like a couple thousand. The photo shoots were like no more than like a couple thousand. I would say like no more than like $5,000.
Wow.
Because all the pre-order, the factory would, I think we had good terms at the time. Like they would just produce everything and then we could pay at the end. And yeah, it was just like me doing everything. So I think that also helped. Like I didn't need a lot of people to run things at that stage.
You were mentioning you have your operating partner. How did you originally end up meeting them?
Yeah. So my operating partner is from Paris, and he had his own brand. He had a couple brands prior to mine, and I actually really liked the brands. Like I was always a fan, and like I actually covered them at Complex. I wrote about them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was very serendipitous. And then one day we met. I just actually reached out randomly. I was like, I love your brand. Like, I'd love to do something for you. And at this point, I was still figuring things out, and I was doing some art direction for brands, like on a consulting basis. So I offered that. I was like, I'd love to do this if you ever need help with that. And I did a shoot for the brand. And then we just started talking more and more, and we started dating.
Oh my God,
yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's definitely, yeah, people are always like, how to do that. But yeah, we started dating, and the brand was still super small and early, but he had the expertise, and he had a team. He had the expertise of wholesale and logistics and production and e-com and back end and those things. So it definitely helped, and it allowed me to just like do what I do best. And so that was definitely like a big part of the brand's success.
If you don't mind me asking, are you guys still dating?
No.
Today? Okay, how does that work with business?
Yeah, so we were together only like a couple years, and this was like 7 years ago. So we eventually, like, our relationship just became about work. Obviously, I think that's pretty natural. We just talked about work all the time. We'd work together all day, and then at nighttime it would just be like conversations about work. So I wouldn't recommend that. I think it works for some people, but I think at the time it was just like, okay, we're probably just better business partners.
That's how the romance between us died, right, Sophia? Right, Sophia?
We're not lovers anymore, unfortunately.
It works for some people. Look,
the spark died for me first. I ended it.
Some people, it worked. Like, there's a lot of founders who are in relationships, and it works.
I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But we, the breakup, it was difficult for a moment, having to go through a breakup and run a company at the same time. So we made it through that. And, I think it's just like people are put in your life for a certain reason. And I definitely think that was his reason for my life. And it helped the brand so much. And yeah, it's like, we've both obviously moved on, and we have a good friendship now. But we're really complementary business partners, I would say.
And so you still are business partners
Yeah.
on Sporty and Rich? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that ever awkward if you're entering a new relationship? You're like, hey, my co-founder and I
know.
used to date. I feel like you'd have to, unfortunately, bring that up every time you get in a new relationship and explain that.
For sure. I mean, there's definitely been guys on my side, and I don't know about his side, but guys on my side who, don't love it. I can't say that I would love it either.
What did they say?
I mean, there's like a bit of jealousy naturally. Not all guys, there's been some, but jealousy and just kind of like, I'm so close with this person. I talk to him every day. I would probably be crazy jealous too if the roles were reversed. But I think it's like when you have the understanding of like I think you can only be friends with someone if there's like literally zero feelings left and it's just strictly like I like you as like a human. Then it's fine because there's no residual of like they're not over you or like they're jealous. There's none of that. It's just like strictly like you're a great business partner. Like let's just keep doing this.
Yeah, let's go make millions together.
Yeah.
let's bring it home.
Exactly.
It's a win-win. And I'm curious, so in the early days when you guys first connected over all of this, when did the conversation turn into business and when did the conversation turn romantic?
Yeah, so I would say the romantic part happened pretty fast, like pretty soon after we met. And business, it was Sporty Rich was still really small. So again, like I wasn't really thinking about turning it into this big thing, but he definitely like encouraged me and pushed me and was like, you should try, like just see if there's something real here. And so I remember doing like a pre-order launch, like the first pre-order launch, and it did pretty well. So I think we were both like, whoa, this is maybe something. So he was like, okay, well, I'll help you with these things. And it kind of just worked out.
That's such a win-win. I'm so happy to hear that because I was curious also for him. So did he ever make a conscious decision to stop working on his other ventures to focus on yours? Oh, how did that happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, he had a brand way before me that ended, that stopped. And then he started another brand. And eventually it was just like, it was such a nice brand and I loved it. But I think it just lacked like, I think the world and the kind of like strong identity. The product was great. The designs were great, but there was just something missing. And I think at some point, like he just, Sporty Rich was doing better at a certain point. So he just made the decision to close his brand. And, Sporty Rich is so big now that I think he's happy with that decision.
Yeah.
But it definitely was tough because I think, it was like his baby. And I think it was maybe difficult to have to choose one over the other. And, it worked out professionally. But I think like, in your heart, if you have something that's like your baby, you want that to succeed, obviously.
And for the first few years of the business, when you guys are working together, how fast does the growth happen?
The growth happened really fast. I mean, we did pre-orders for maybe like 6 months and we would do maybe like $40,000 a month with that. And then we started to get some wholesale accounts. So Selfridges was our first. And it's funny because they're our biggest account today. It's like
still,
still like they're our first and they're now our biggest. And so, I always like love and value those partners and relationships so much because it's like just that kind of visibility and reach was so crucial at the beginning of the brand when we were just like had like, I don't know, 5 SKUs. So, we started to do wholesale and it grew more and more. And I think the first year we maybe did like, I don't know, 100,000 in sales. And then the next year was like 6 million. And then it was like 12 million. And then it was like
So
30
it's like
million. The growth was, it was fast. So a big part of it was wholesale. And then it was COVID. And COVID was like a turning point. It just blew up.
Why? What do you think made it blow up?
Well, I think during COVID, everyone was home and online shopping and everyone just wanted sweatsuits. And that's like, at the time, that's literally all we sold. And then, just kind of like these it girls and models and celebrities wore the brand. And it just kind of became like, I mean, I hate to say this, but like an Instagram brand. I mean, when COVID started, I was like the brand's going to die. There's no way people are going to be spending money right now when they're, not working or just like at home doing nothing. But I think it was the opposite for a lot of businesses.
The legendary crew neck drop got like 600,000 in one day. Can you walk us through what that felt like? Were you like panicked, excited, worried? Okay, can the supply chain, still deal with this scale and orders? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of all those things. It was excitement, it was panic, it was like, holy shit, how are we going to make this happen? Like, there's no way. But it was also like, okay, wow, we've really built something here, because that, like, at the time, I mean, that's still like, to do that many sales in one day is like crazy, I think, for any brand. And I was definitely scared, and we were like, we spoke to the factory and we were like, okay, you're used to making this many, we now have this many. And they were kind of just like, yeah, we can't do that. Like, there's no way. So we like had to scramble. We had to find a new factory. We had to find like a logistics center. At the time, we were using some like guy in downtown LA who was just like shipping things out with like a friend of his. And it was so random and like so bad. So then we had to find like a real warehouse and set up all of these different systems on the back end, like NetSuite and all of these different systems and backbones to the company that I had no idea about. And it was really like a scramble. I remember it was like a month of like, okay, we need to like figure this shit out. Otherwise, we're not going to, like, this brand is not going to exist.
Wow, that's crazy that it was actually a turning point that kind of was a little scary. I do want to know, what do you think are some of the best decisions that you guys made business-wise that other people can learn from?
I think you need to definitely know what you don't know. So I think some people like want to do it all. Some people want to like be the founder and be the face and do the design and do the marketing, but also like do the finance and like help with production, like the logistics. But it's like no one can do all those things. Like, there's just no way. So it's like I knew what my strengths were and I knew what they weren't. And so it was like, okay, let's get people, the best people, to fill these roles and to handle these things. And let's work with the best partners, whether it's like a good factory, the good logistics center, who we still use all the same ones to this day. And yeah, I think just like surrounding yourself with people who know how to handle the things that you're not good at. And that will really help scale the business, I think.
You went from, $5,000 in savings to a Soho flagship and even now a sexual wellness brand, Sensual Sport.
Yeah.
How do you decide when it's the right time to go into a new category? Can you share any numbers or proof points that showed you, yes, okay, beauty is working, or yes, retail is working, let's now expand?
We were, as I said before, like such an Instagram brand and like an online only brand. And I think a lot of brands have succeeded when they have like a physical footprint. I mean, you see that with a lot of brands. It's not every brand, but most brands, especially like legacy brands or brands that, have been around for a long time. And I think for us, it was kind of just a feeling of like, okay, this is the right time. Like, we want to be more than just like an online brand. We want to kind of show people what the Sporty Rich world feels like and what it looks like. And, I think that's such an important part of building a community, is having that like physical in-person touch point where people can come and, hear what kind of music a Sporty Rich store would play, or like at the cafe, what kind of smoothies we would serve, or what the staff look like and how they treat you. And obviously just like seeing the clothes in person, that's like the easiest one. But yeah, I think for me, it was just like, okay, it's time for like the next phase. And I think that was the next phase for our brand. We're lucky because we're able to test so many things because we are quite a small team and we don't have a lot of like red tape, I guess, like big corporations have, where it has to go through so many departments. It's like, I'm kind of just like, oh, I like this. We should try it and see if it does well. And then we'll try it on a small scale. And if it does, we'll go further into that. And if it doesn't, it's like not a huge loss. Again, this was just something where I was just like, this is a fun product category and a world that like I'm kind of just personally getting familiar with myself. So like, let's try it and see if this would be something.
And what has that experience been like so far?
I love it. I mean, I think what I love the most is building a world and building like a strong like visual identity. And that's what I've done with Sporty Rich and what I continue to do with Sporty Rich and what I've done with Sensual Sport now. And I think just building this world where people can see themselves in, and a world that doesn't really exist. And, just again, like creating those images and that product and the packaging that, I don't know, for me, it's just so exciting. I'm so visual and I just love like beautiful things. And so for me, that's like a big part of it. And it's been fun.
I want to know also for you, was there ever a moment when someone like a celebrity wore your brand where you just were so like incredibly shocked and excited?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anytime anyone wears the brand, even when I'm out and like I'm meeting friends of friends and they're like, "Oh, I know Sporty Rich," and I'm like, "That's crazy." Like to me, it's still such like a small passion project of mine that when someone has heard of the brand or knows the brand or has bought the brand, it's like, whoa, that's crazy. It's like a pinch me moment every time. And yeah, there's been celebrities, I mean, like, the models, there's been like Rosie or like Emrata or Elsa Hosk, like all those girls. Um, but I think it's more just
And how
that
did those moments happen? Were they organic? Did you guys seed it?
I think back then, like this was when the brand was small when they were wearing it, like at the early phases. We didn't have PR, so I think they just maybe discovered it and found it and bought it. Or yeah, we weren't really doing gifting at that time in a big way. Now, we have a PR team, so people get sent stuff. But I think the fact that people like just discover it on their own is like super cool.
What's one mistake you made early on that you'd warn, every 22-year-old or any woman starting a business against?
Oh, there's a bunch. I mean, I've made so many mistakes. Early on, this was during COVID. This was when like all of the courier companies had an influx of orders and deliveries and packages, and we had major delays. And we had, people DMing us and emailing and getting so mad. And at the time, I didn't have a customer service person. It was me.
Wow.
So I was running the Instagram and the DMs and the emails. And I remember I would like get mad at customers and I would just like go off on them. And I'm not proud of it. But like when you're bombarded with like thousands of messages a day of like people blaming you and like accusing you of like taking their money or like stealing, it's like it wasn't that at all. Obviously, it was just like we were barely keeping our head above water. Obviously you should never talk to anyone the way I talk to some customers. Like I would just go off sometimes and lose my temper. But I think I was just like so overwhelmed at the time and so frustrated and just like wanted people to understand that like, one, it's not our fault. Two, it's like the factory. I mean, the factories were also, I think everyone was just like bombarded. It was like the factories, the logistics, the shipping companies. And it's kind of like at some point, it's like you need to just like give people a bit of grace. Even sometimes when, small brands, my order's delayed by like a month or I'm like, it'll get here. Like, it's fine. I understand people want their stuff. But like at the end of the day, it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's not life or death. So I think definitely having a customer service person, not running your own customer service. And again, just like knowing what you're not good at. I'm not good at that. I shouldn't be like dealing with customers on a support email or the DMs. So yeah, I think that was definitely a huge one. But there's so many. I think as like an entrepreneur, that's what your life is, like making mistakes and learning from them and hopefully just getting better from them.
And being a female founder can be so hard. People are incredibly tough. There's a lot of scrutiny. How do you feel like you've been able to navigate and deal with that?
It is tough. I think, in the past year, I don't know if it's like getting older, my age, or like our government, or just the social climate, political climate, but it's definitely more noticeable how much the world dislikes women and how the odds are stacked against women. And it doesn't just come from men, it comes from women too. It's like it's kind of everywhere and it's all the time. And I think naturally women are at a disadvantage. But I think that just makes us stronger. And I think you just have to grow thick skin. Like it's not going to stop. So there's no solution there. It's kind of like, what can you do? And it's like, you can't worry about what you can't control. The world is the way it is. We can hope it gets better. We can do our part to make things better, not, perpetuate it. But I think at the end of the day, it's like you have to be a tough cookie. And if you're not, you might want to choose another job that's like, I don't know, be like hiding somewhere, not so public facing.
Yeah, because for you, I think it's so interesting that you are both, of course, building the Sporty and Rich brand, and then you definitely also have your own personal brand and your own Instagram.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like of building in public?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough. I think people just love to criticize. And I was actually talking to my therapist about this the other day. She's like, the lowest forms of thought are like opinion and judgment. And that is not like coming from a wise place or a place of love. So like you have to be above that. Instead, just like look at things with acceptance of like, okay, this is the way things are. I'm not going to criticize. I'm not going to judge. So I try to do that. Most people don't do that, I think. But if you are ready to take it on, you can be an outspoken person. And, you know, sometimes I am. Probably way less than I was because you'll always get some sort of backlash or criticism. But I think you just have to kind of know who you are and be able to kind of stand by the things that you say and support.
How do you choose like what to post now?
I definitely don't want to stir the pot ever. So I think these days it's like having an opinion at all is so controversial no matter what it is. But I think you also have to remember, and sometimes I forget, it's like you can never please everyone. We all have different opinions based on, you know, our family history, where we come from, what we've been through. And that's okay. It's like it's okay to have a different opinion. And sometimes when, you know, even I get upset if people don't agree with something I say, I get upset. But you have to remember, you have to be like, oh, this person is a totally different human being and has a totally different brain. So why should they think the way that I think? So in that sense, I think there's just an understanding maybe that comes with that. But yeah, it's not easy out there.
I mean, I love how empathetic you are, and I'm sure that also bleeds into the way that you lead and the way that you build your teams. As we're coming up on time, I also wanted to ask, what is your leadership philosophy? Like, how did you find early employees and people that you built Sporty and Rich with?
I mean, I think being a leader is such an important part of having a company and starting a company and being an entrepreneur, because you know, people do look up to you and they look to you for guidance. And sometimes I forget, I'm like, oh, wow, like I have 40 people who are like looking to me for like, what do we do? Like, what is the answer? What is the solution and the strategy? I read this book really early on. I think I was like 23, but everyone knows this book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I love him. But he's amazing. I mean, he specializes in leadership. So it's just all about, you know, why you do what you do, leading with a purpose, leading with a vision, kind of empowering your team. And instead of the approach of coming at it like, oh, I'm your boss, I'm like, you have to do what I say, like I'm at the top. It's more of like empowering people to have their own opinions and ideas and inspiring each other and kind of, you know, being equals and on the same field and not looking down at people. You know, I've had bosses in the past. I mean, I've had so many random jobs like working retail or in restaurants where it's like they get off on this kind of dictatorship way of running things, and there's like an ego and being able to like tell people what to do, I think, and being in charge. But I think you realize like the power is in the numbers and in the people, and it's not like the person at the top. It's really everybody else, because it's everybody else who's their contribution is what's making this thing go around and making this thing survive and sustain and move forward. And I think when you realize that, you lead to inspire rather than to like create some sort of fear maybe. So I think that book is amazing. I can't recommend it enough. So I think anyone who wants any advice on leadership, don't ask me, ask Simon Sinek.
That's a great answer. We will link it in the comments.
Yeah, definitely do that.
So then final question would be, where is the brand today and where do you see it going in the future?
I mean, we're opening LA in a couple months. So that will be our second store. I would like to, you know, expand retail in a bigger way. You know, just continuing to open our own stores. We have a lot of wholesale accounts, but I think retail is the best way to kind of be in charge and in control of your image and your brand. I think just expanding the product categories,
And for those who aren't familiar, like, do you have any like proof points or numbers that you can share for like what does the brand look like what are you guys selling, etc.?
It's a lot. We do probably we do 2 drops every month, sometimes 3. It's a lot. And every drop has around like 35 SKUs in it. So yeah, do the math, it's a ton. So I would like to kind of scale that back a little bit because I've always been big on like quality over quantity, and I think like less but better. And I think it would be nice for me and for the team and just for everyone, for the brand, to kind of like streamline things, I guess, a little bit more. And I think, I mean, it's hard because the algorithm wants new things all the time. So you get caught up in this cycle of like, okay, we need a new drop here, 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 here. And it ends up being just like endless and nonstop. And you're just on this hamster wheel. But I think what I kind of want to do is scale back and just do things in a bigger and better way, maybe, to obviously sustain the growth and the sales that we're doing now. But
what does the growth in the sales look like, if you don't mind
sharing?
Yeah,
so this year we're going to do around 40 million. And then next year we're targeting around 60. And yeah, I mean, the growth is steady and the growth has been, I mean, I'm happy with the growth. And I think the thing about growth is you can either have like a really big piece of a small pie, or you can have a small piece of a big pie. And right now we don't have anyone else involved. And I think when you bring on investors and all these different people, it's like you have a smaller and smaller piece. But I have so much control, and I think that's what a lot of people that I know personally who've raised money or have, co-founders or people who have equity, you don't have that control anymore, and you kind of lose some of it, and you have a board and you have to listen to people and you have like crazy targets that you need to reach. And that to me seems so stressful, and just that would take away again like some of the heart of it. So I think we could grow a lot faster if we maybe had outside funding. But sometimes I don't know if that's what I want to do. And I think you have to like make that decision as a founder. It's like we could probably be like a $500 million brand, but like, I don't know how much equity I would have at that point, how much control I would have at that point. Would I be happy? It's like that number sounds great, but like it comes with other things. And I think I'm still doing this because I love it. I wake up every day and I'm like so excited to work on whatever it is I'm working on. And I think maybe that would change if we evolved into this like insanely high growth company. And yeah, I just think for me that's not the intention. For now. It could change, but that's just where I'm at.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey and all your lessons with us. It was such a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.